Ladies and gentlemen, a powerful hook, one that reverberates across the corridors of power, from the marbled halls of Washington to the bustling streets of Delhi. A whisper, a revelation, a seismic shift in global diplomacy. What did Donald Trump say to India's formidable External Affairs Minister, Jaishankar, that sent shockwaves through the world? Tonight, we unravel the mystery, a clandestine exchange that could redefine alliances, alter geopolitical equations, and leave analysts scrambling for answers. Was it a warning, a promise, or a secret pact that could tilt the balance of power in an increasingly volatile world? Ladies and gentlemen, the stakes have never been higher. In an era where diplomacy is often conducted behind closed doors, where a single phrase can ignite or extinguish a crisis, this conversation, this moment, between two of the most consequential figures in modern politics demands our attention. Jaishankar, the architect of India's assertive foreign policy, a man known for his razor-sharp intellect and unflinching resolve, and Donald Trump, the maverick former president whose every word still commands global scrutiny. What passed between them? Some suggest it was about China's rising aggression. Others whisper of a deal that could reshape trade, defense, or even the future of democracy itself. One thing is certain: the world was watching. And when Jaishankar walked away, that inscrutable expression on his face, the speculation reached a fever pitch. Ladies and gentlemen, in this high-stakes game of nations, where every move is calculated and every silence speaks volumes, we must ask ourselves, what don't we know? And more importantly, what comes next? The stage is set. The players are in motion, and history, as always, is being written in the shadows. Thank you. The first key point revolves around the notion of a mysterious diplomatic exchange between Donald Trump and Jaishankar, one so consequential that its undisclosed nature alone has sparked intense global curiosity. At its core, this idea plays into the long-standing fascination with back-channel communications and private dialogues between world leaders, conversations that, while hidden from public view, often carry the weight of history. The very suggestion that such an interaction took place implies that something of immense strategic importance was discussed, something that could alter the trajectory of US-India relations or even influence broader geopolitical dynamics. The secrecy surrounding the exchange is itself a powerful narrative device, inviting speculation about what might have been said, why it remains undisclosed, and what it signals about the future. Diplomacy has always thrived in the shadows, with some of the most pivotal moments in international relations emerging from closed-door meetings rather than public declarations. Think of Kissinger's secret trips to China or the backroom negotiations that ended the Cuban Missile Crisis, moments where the absence of transparency was not just strategic, but necessary. In this context, the alleged Trump-Jaishankar conversation fits into a grand tradition of high stakes, behind-the-scenes statcraft. The fact that neither side has fully clarified the details only amplifies the intrigue, leaving analysts and observers to piece together clues from body language, past precedents, and the broader geopolitical chessboard. The implications of such a discussion are vast. If Trump, a figure known for his unconventional, often disruptive approach to diplomacy, conveyed a message significant enough to shock the world, it raises questions about its content. Was it a warning about shared adversaries like China, a promise of deeper military or economic collaboration, or perhaps a contentious demand that could strain ties? The absence of concrete answers creates a vacuum filled by theories, each more compelling than the last. This Uncertainty is not just theatrical, it reflects the fragile nature of international alliances, where a single private conversation can signal shifts in policy long before they become official. Moreover, the focus on Jaishankar's role adds another layer. As India's top diplomat, he is no stranger to high-pressure negotiations, but the suggestion that even he was left visibly affected by Trump's message implies something extraordinary was at play. Whether it was surprise, concern, or strategic calculation, his reaction, real or perceived, becomes a cipher for interpreting the exchange's significance. In the end, the mystery itself is the story, a reminder that in global politics, the most important words are often the ones never spoken aloud. The idea that this alleged exchange between Donald Trump and Jaishankar sent geopolitical shockwaves across the world speaks to the profound impact such high-level diplomacy can have on the international order. When two figures of this stature, one representing the enduring influence of America's most unconventional modern president, the other embodying India's assertive new foreign policy vision, engage in private discussions, the ripple effects extend far beyond their immediate conversation. The very suggestion that their dialogue could reshape global dynamics underscores how pivotal the US-India relationship has become in contemporary geopolitics, particularly as both nations navigate an era defined by China's rise, economic uncertainty, and shifting alliances. The shockwaves metaphor implies that whatever was communicated carried immediate and far-reaching consequences, disrupting established assumptions and forcing other nations to recalibrate their strategies. In diplomatic circles, such reactions typically follow major policy announcements, unexpected alliances, or veiled threats, moments that expose the fragile equilibrium of international relations. If Trump's message to Jaishankar indeed provoked this level of global reaction, it likely touched on one of the defining issues of our time, perhaps a bold shift in US posture toward China, a clandestine security arrangement, or even a controversial economic proposition that could realign trade networks. The absence of concrete details amplifies the speculation, allowing observers to project their own anxieties and theories onto the interaction, which in turn magnifies its perceived significance. This narrative also plays into the broader theme of how modern diplomacy increasingly operates in a space where perception and reality blur. In an age of instant communication and relentless media scrutiny, the mere hint of a consequential private meeting can move markets, unsettle adversaries, and energize domestic political bases. The shockwaves, then, are not just about what was said, but about how the possibility of such a conversation forces other actors, allies and rivals alike, to confront their own vulnerabilities and opportunities. For instance, if Pakistan interprets the exchange as a sign of deepening US-India military ties, it might seek reassurances from Beijing. If European capitals perceive a transactional shift in America's approach to alliances, they may accelerate their own strategic autonomy efforts. Ultimately, the power of this shockwave narrative lies in its ability to distill the unpredictable nature of today's geopolitics, where a single undisclosed conversation between two leaders can become the catalyst for a chain reaction of realignments, leaving the world to grapple with the aftershocks long before the actual content of the discussion comes to light. The speculation and intrigue swirling around this alleged exchange between Donald Trump and Jaishankar reveals far more about the current state of global politics than any confirmed diplomatic communique ever could. The very fact that such intense conjecture exists points to a world where uncertainty has become the dominant currency of international relations, where the absence of official information creates a vacuum quickly filled by competing narratives. each tailored to advance specific geopolitical agendas. This phenomenon speaks to the erosion of trust in traditional diplomatic channels and the growing influence of perception as a driving force in foreign policy calculations. The range of theories about what might have transpired, from discussions about countering China's aggression to covert trade negotiations, or even existential questions about the future of democratic alliances, demonstrates how multipolar the world has become, with every major power reading the same events through radically different lenses of self-interest. What makes this particular brand of speculation so potent is the combustible combination of personalities involved. Trump, whose presidency redefined unpredictability in statecraft, and Jaishankar, the cerebral architect of India's ambitious global repositioning. Their coming together automatically triggers heightened attention because both men have built reputations for challenging conventional wisdom and pursuing unorthodox strategies. When such figures converse behind closed doors, the diplomatic community instinctively braces for potential disruption to established norms, whether in the Indo-Pacific balance of power, the global economic order, or the fragile ecosystem of multilateral institutions. The speculation gains further traction from the current historical moment, where the post-Cold War consensus has shattered but no new world order has yet solidified, making every interaction between major powers appear potentially epoch-defining. This climate of intense conjecture also serves as a mirror reflecting our era's information paradox. While we have unprecedented access to data and analysis, the truly consequential decisions still occur in spaces inaccessible to public scrutiny, leaving professional observers and casual audiences alike to parse cryptic statements, analyze body language, and dissect the timing of related policy moves for clues. The resulting speculation isn't merely gossip or idle chatter. It actively shapes realities as governments adjust their positions based on what they believe other nations might be planning, creating a feedback loop where perception alters policy, which then reshapes perception anew. In this environment, the Trump-Jaishankar exchange, whether substantively groundbreaking or not, takes on outsized importance simply because the world has conditioned itself to view such interactions as potential turning points, demonstrating how modern geopolitics has become as much about interpreting shadows as it is about confronting tangible realities. The focus on External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar's role in this unfolding diplomatic drama reveals much about India's remarkable transformation on the world stage under his stewardship. As the architect of India's assertive new foreign policy doctrine, Jaishankar embodies the nation's strategic pivot from non-aligned idealism to what he terms multi-alignment, a pragmatic approach that deftly navigates between competing global powers while fiercely protecting national interests. His presence in this speculated high-stakes dialogue with Donald Trump symbolizes how dramatically India's geopolitical stock has risen, transitioning from being perceived as a reluctant emerging power to becoming an indispensable player in shaping 21st century international relations. The very suggestion that a private conversation between Jaishankar and the mercurial former U.S. president could send shockwaves through global capitals speaks volumes about how New Delhi's diplomatic weight is now calculated in Washington, Beijing, and European power centers alike. Jaishankar's distinctive diplomatic style, combining intellectual heft with unapologetic realpolitik, has redefined how India engages with the world. His ability to articulate India's positions with crystalline clarity while maintaining strategic ambiguity about long-term intentions has become a trademark approach that keeps counterparts both engaged and slightly unsettled. This makes any substantive exchange with a figure like Trump particularly consequential, as it represents the intersection of two disruptive approaches to statecraft. The minister's reputation for meticulous preparation and mastery of geopolitical nuance suggests that any interaction would be carefully calibrated, with each word weighed for its potential ripple effects across multiple theaters, from the Indo-Pacific to Eurasian energy markets to the delicate balance of global trade regimes. The intense scrutiny given to Jaishankar's alleged reaction following the purported exchange reflects how contemporary diplomacy has become an exercise in reading subtle signals. In an era where formal alliances are becoming more fluid and issue-based partnerships more prevalent, the personal equations between key players assume outsized importance. Jaishankar's poker face professionalism, developed through decades of diplomatic service, culminating in his current political role, makes any perceived deviation from his composed demeanor particularly noteworthy to seasoned observers. Whether such interpretations are accurate or merely projective, they demonstrate how India's foreign policy apparatus under his guidance has cultivated an aura of strategic unpredictability that commands attention in world capitals. This carefully constructed image of India as neither fully aligned nor easily pigeonholed gives New Delhi unique leverage in bilateral negotiations and multilateral forums alike, ensuring that when Jaishankar engages with counterparts, especially volatile figures like Trump, the international community instinctively leans in to decipher the implications. The enduring influence of Donald Trump on international affairs, even out of office, forms a crucial backdrop to the speculation surrounding his alleged exchange with Jaishankar. Trump's unique brand of disruptive diplomacy continues to cast a long shadow over global politics, with world leaders and foreign policy establishments perpetually attuned to his statements and private maneuvers. His unconventional approach to statecraft, characterized by transactional bilateralism, disdain for multilateral institutions, and willingness to upend decades-old alliances, has left an indelible mark on how nations perceive American power. The mere possibility that Trump conveyed a significant message to India's foreign minister carries weight precisely because his political trajectory remains unpredictable, with the potential to return to center stage in American politics. This creates a peculiar dynamic where foreign governments must simultaneously engage with the current Biden administration while hedging their bets against a possible Trump restoration, making any interaction with the former president inherently consequential. Trump's continued ability to command attention in diplomatic circles stems from his demonstrated willingness during his presidency to break established norms and pursue unexpected geopolitical realignments. His administration's embrace of India as a strategic counterweight to China, coupled with his personal chemistry with Prime Minister Modi, established a template for U.S.-India relations that persists despite the change in Washington's leadership. The prospect that Trump might have shared views with Jaishankar that diverge from or even contradict current U.S. policy positions introduces an element of uncertainty that foreign policy establishments find both troubling and impossible to ignore. This is particularly acute in the context of great power competition, where Trump's known skepticism of traditional alliances and admiration for strongman leaders could signal potential shifts in America's global posture should he return to power. The fascination with Trump's private diplomacy also reflects broader anxieties about the future of American foreign policy in an era of domestic polarization. The fact that a former president and possible future candidate can engage in discussions that are perceived as potentially undermining or circumventing current administration policy speaks to the erosion of the traditional bipartisan consensus on foreign affairs. For strategic partners like India, this creates a complex landscape where long-term planning must account for the possibility of radical policy swings depending on America's electoral cycles. The speculation surrounding Trump's message to Jaishankar thus becomes a proxy for larger questions about the sustainability of American commitments and the reliability of its partnerships in an age of political volatility. In this sense, the enduring shockwaves from their alleged conversation reveal less about any specific content exchanged than about the structural uncertainties that now define international relations in the shadow of American domestic politics. The speech's concluding emphasis on scrutinizing hidden diplomatic maneuvers reflects a fundamental truth about contemporary geopolitics, that the most consequential developments often occur away from public view, in the confidential exchanges and unspoken understandings between world leaders. This call to look beyond official statements and question what remains undisclosed speaks to the growing complexity of international relations in an era where traditional alliances are being tested and new power dynamics are emerging. The very framing of the Trump-Jaishankar interaction as a potentially world-altering event that demands closer examination underscores how modern statecraft operates on multiple levels. The visible pageantry of summit diplomacy existing alongside a shadow world of back-channel communications and tacit agreements. In this environment, the public narrative frequently serves as merely the surface layer of a much deeper strategic calculus, with the true substance of international relations buried beneath layers of diplomatic obfuscation and deliberate ambiguity. This dynamic becomes particularly significant when examining relationships between democratic nations and authoritarian regimes, where the gap between public posturing and private negotiations can be especially pronounced. The speech's implicit suggestion that observers must read between the lines to understand the full implications of high-level meetings acknowledges the reality that contemporary diplomacy often involves saying one thing publicly while working toward different objectives behind closed doors. This duality creates a perpetual tension between transparency and strategic discretion, between the democratic imperative for accountability and the operational requirements of effective statecraft. The focus on decoding Jaishankar's reaction to Trump's alleged message exemplifies how seasoned analysts attempt to penetrate this veil, parsing subtle cues and contextual clues to discern the actual substance and significance of diplomatic encounters that may shape the international order for years to come. The broader implication of this analytical approach is that understanding global politics requires more than just monitoring official policies and pronouncements. It demands attention to the silences, the omissions, and the carefully constructed ambiguities that characterize high-stakes diplomacy. In an information environment saturated with instant takes and superficial analysis, the speech's insistence on looking deeper serves as a reminder that the true drivers of geopolitical change frequently operate beneath the threshold of public awareness, in the realm of unrecorded conversations and mutually understood but never articulated positions. This recognition of diplomacy's hidden dimensions becomes especially crucial when dealing with figures like Trump and Jaishankar, both known for their strategic communication styles that often convey as much through implication as through explicit statement, making the task of interpretation both more difficult and more essential for anyone seeking to anticipate the next evolution in international relations.